Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. And thank you all so much for all the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. YouTube, this is for educational purposes. And this video had got no intent of bullying or harassing anyone. This is a reaction video. And this is also me creating awareness and letting people know what is going on all over the world. So sincerely speaking, I am really very sorry that I never knew about this. Sincerely speaking, I know I have covered Jim Crow and that a lot of it. I know about school segregation found in and all that. But one thing I never knew was that transportation was also segregated during Jim Crow. And look at some people, if those people that come out to say that Black people were better off during Jim Crow, you people did not even know what happened during Jim Crow. So it was, in fact, I don't know how I know this man, he's a professor, but I never knew. I don't know how I stumbled on this, and I am really speechless. Now it's about Jim Crow killer bus drivers, right? Only to find out that so many people that look like me were unalive during the bus segregation. And the people that were unalive were soldiers. Okay, they were also soldiers. So just to tell you that soldiers back then, can imagine a bus driver unaliving a soldier. Man, I am in shock. Let's get into this video.
Hey everybody, Professor Moore here, and I have a book recommendation for you. Margaret Burnham's by hands now known, Jim Crow's Legal Executioners. This is one of the most important books that I have read in years. I honestly believe that if more people read this book, they would have a better understanding about the legacies of slavery and the daily violence that Black Americans faced during the Jim Crow era, which lasted from the 1870s to the 1960s. One area that the book covers is the daily terror and violence that Black Americans faced on segregated buses in the South. Now, most of us probably know the name Rosa Parks. We know the story of how in 1955, she refused to give up her seat to a white person on a segregated bus, and this started the Montgomery bus boycott in Alabama and really helped to kickstart the civil rights movement. But how many of us know the name Viola White? A decade before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus, a 35-year-old Black woman named Viola White did exactly the same thing, but her story ended very differently. After refusing to give up her seat to a white person on a segregated bus in Alabama in 1944, Viola White was beaten, arrested, and fined $10. After Viola White was found guilty, she decided to appeal the verdict, and that's when the police decided to retaliate against her. In an effort to terrorize Viola White and to get her to drop her appeal, a police officer kidnapped her 16-year-old daughter and raped her. Viola White was able to take down that police officer's license plate, but when she reported it to the police department, they simply tipped off that officer who left town, and he was never charged with a crime. This is the terrorism that Black Americans faced for simply trying to use public transportation. In her book, Margaret Burnham notes that it was not unusual for Black riders to be beaten in plain sight of other riders by bus drivers, white passengers, and the police. In the same year that Viola White was terrorized, another Black woman named Mary White was attacked on a segregated bus in Alabama. One of the most humiliating aspects of riding these buses is that Black passengers were not allowed to go in through the front. They had to enter the bus through the back door. When a bus driver refused to allow Mary White to go in through the front entrance, she called him a son of a bitch. And for that comment, the bus driver picked up a fire extinguisher and beat her over the head with it. This was the danger of defying the racist rules of segregated buses, but the punishment could be much worse. The punishment often was death. One of the main groups who challenged these white supremacist rules on segregated buses were Black soldiers and veterans. They felt that by serving their country during the Second World War, they did not deserve to be treated like second-class citizens. They felt that by serving their country, they at least deserved to be treated like human beings. One Black soldier who was stationed in the South described the daily racism that he experienced. He said, To be a black soldier in the South was one of the worst things that could happen to you. If you go to town, you would have to get off the sidewalk if a white person came by. If you went into the wrong neighborhood wearing your uniform, you got beat up. If off post you were hungry and couldn't find a black restaurant or a black home, you would starve. And you were a soldier out there wearing the uniform of your country and you're getting treated like a dog. That happened all over the South. For standing up against Southern racism, many black soldiers and veterans were murdered in broad daylight by killer bus drivers and killer cops. In her book, Margaret Burnham tells us that between 1941 and 1946, at least 28 active duty black soldiers lost their lives in the United States for refusing to submit silently to the humiliations of Jim Crow. One of these black soldiers who lost their lives was named Henry Williams. On August 15, 1942, Henry Williams got on a segregated bus in Mobile, Alabama. The white bus driver, Grover Chandler, decided to stop the bus to talk to a friend. When Williams asked the bus driver Chandler to hurry up his conversation because he had to get back to his military base on time, the bus driver pulled out his revolver and began beating Williams over the head with it. When Williams got off the bus, Chandler chased him down and shot him in the back of the head, killing him instantly. The bus driver, Grover Chandler, was never charged with a crime, and the U.S. Army never made any effort to find justice for their slain soldier. Williams was buried in an unmarked grave. Grover Chandler, the killer, lived a long, happy life and peacefully died in 1981. If we read the killer's obituary, we learn that he was a lifelong member of the Fellowship Baptist Church. Another black soldier who was killed on a segregated bus was Booker T. Spicely. Spicely got on a bus in Durham, North Carolina in 1944. When the bus driver, Herman Lee Council, forced Spicely to get up out of his seat to make room for a white passenger, Spicely responded, "I thought I was fighting this war for democracy. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm not used to seeing things like this." When Spicely got off the bus, the driver chased him down and shot him twice in the heart and in the stomach. When the police arrived, they took Spicely to the Watts Hospital. However, they refused to admit him because he was black. When Spicely finally got to a hospital that would treat black people, he was already dead. The killer bus driver, Herman Lee Council, was tried for manslaughter. However, during the trial, the driver falsely claimed that Spicely had his hands in his pockets and he feared for his life. After 2 days of testimony and only 30 minutes of deliberation, the jury returned a not guilty verdict to a segregated courtroom. The U.S. Army conducted their own investigation, but they did not investigate the killer. They investigated black soldiers and the black community to make sure that no one was going to protest. That's how much they cared about the lives of their black soldiers. 2 years after Spicely was killed, a black Army veteran named Timothy Hood was murdered in Bessemer, Alabama. Timothy Hood got on a segregated bus, and he made the mistake of moving the color board to allow more room for black passengers to sit down. As he did this, he told the bus driver, "Where I just came from, us colored had all the seat room we wanted. We sat anywhere we wanted to." For making this comment and moving that color board, the bus driver, William Ryan Weeks, shot Timothy Hood 5 times. When the police arrived, they didn't arrest the bus driver. They arrested Timothy Hood. The police chief, Greenberry Fant, handcuffed Hood and put him in the back of his police car. He then proceeded to interrogate Hood and asked him if he had done anything to make the bus driver fear for his life. When Timothy Hood, who had just been shot 5 times, refused to answer this police officer's questions, he pulled out his gun and shot him to death right there in his car. Once again, no one was charged with the crime of murder. Not the bus driver, not the police officer. It was killing without consequence, because in a white supremacist world, black life does not matter. This is how dehumanized black Americans were a mere 78 years ago. They were treated as second-class citizens. Their lives did not matter. In her book, Margaret Burnham argues that there needs to be reparations for the victims of Jim Crow violence, just as there needs to be reparations for the victims of lynching and slavery. Burnham tells us that reparation is an interdependent bundle of gestures and practices that involve recognition, truth-telling, apology, and payment, owed to all the victims of Jim Crow injustice. Indeed, the enduring presence of slavery in American structures and institutions militates in favor of reparations, both to address the wounds of enslavement and to dismantle systemic racism. She also notes that their claims for reparations should be promptly addressed because the generation most affected by these crimes is aging. This is not ancient history. This is practically yesterday. This is not Black history. This is American history. And if we ever want to move forward, this violence has to be acknowledged and addressed in a meaningful way.
This is all I got from this video, and sincerely speaking, I am in shock. Why? I am going to be truthful. I know about Jim Crow, but some of these stories are 100% new to me. I knew about segregated fountain, schools, buses, and all of that. Sincerely speaking, I never knew that so many armies or so many soldiers died from it. Man, this is beyond me. I am not gonna lie. Okay. Ooh, interesting. Now let me say this. So you can imagine people that were armies or soldiers back then being Pe0ple by a bus driver. Tell me this is not true. And majority of the shootings of Pe0ple did not just happen once. They probably Pe0ple you like 5 times. And then take you to like the police will come and they ask you, did you do anything that made them fear their lives? Now I see why every minute. I know they've been fearing for their lives all day, all time. But now I see the real secret beyond them fearing for their lives. See, it's really amazing how people will Pe0ple you and then also come out to say they fear for their lives. Man, say no more. When I say no more, I mean say no more. Oh, okay. I don't know. My brain is probably like, running everywhere. But I am going to pick it. Just whatever I'm able to pick out of it, just please make do of it. Instead of tackling the problem that they were creating, their own people were creating by making Black people unsafe at every particular point they get. And then it is that they fear their life. And the worst that the person that was fighting for democracy, right, did not also get anything from his own team. Because if there were people that you expected to come out and speak out for the soldiers that were unalive for no just reason, I expected other soldiers or other armies to come out to speak for them. And then I am going to ask this. Why is it that a soldier did not have a Pe0ple, but a bus driver got a Pe0ple? Man, see, you know what? I think I really would be very, very mad. When I say very mad, super mad, if I hear any African people, man, I don't care where you are from. I am Nigerian. I keep saying that all the time. And when I say African, you mean all the countries that are in Africa. Next time I hear somebody or someone saying something about coming to America or saying that Americans do not, Black Americans are not this thing, I probably will make sure that some of you really need to be taken back or need to be educated on some of the things Black people pass through, especially things like this. Because each time we talk about some certain things, they think it's only slavery, right? But it is beyond it. I have been talking about Jim Crow. I know Jim Crow was doing segregation. So many things happened during Jim Crow. But I never knew all these things. This particular one, I know Rosa Parks, but this particular one, these ones that I am hearing, I never heard of them. That it is now a tussle. You cannot say even anything if you are in the bus, right? Because they might just pew pew pew. Like that is the end of it. And now let me say this. Each time people talk about segregation, each time we talk about reparations, see, reparations is not only for slavery, if you know what I am saying. When I say reparations, I mean for everything they have put Black people through. And the fact that we keep saying, some of them, no, not even, some of them keep telling us it was long ago. You see this video? I don't know how it is, but we really do need to share. I mean, not even to Black people. They need to see this video. Those people need to say it. Not even Black people. And I am saying a very big shout out to this man for being bold enough to come out to tell all these stories. He is a history professor in school. And I appreciate his work. Man, is that how bad it is? Sorry, please do not get me wrong for reacting this way. I am speechless because, so with everything that happened, instead of looking for a way to get the people that kept peeping people up and down, they looked for a way to hold Black people so they don't come out to protest. Man, I am really grateful to the ancestors for human rights, for Black people fighting so hard. See, I keep saying it. I am very grateful that I know we have not arrived. Like, we still have a very long way to go, especially when it comes to freedom, right? But I am so grateful for how far Black people have come. Looking back, I am grateful. When I say it, and I say it with all my heart, I am so grateful. Wow, interesting. And I have been here screaming about how you can go to their own stream, you can go to their school, you can go to the same school, not knowing transportation was also segregated, not knowing that so many people were also pew just for, man. See you on in my next video. Bye for now.